agenda tonight?
Yeah, just one item of note, 3.06 under consent, the 2025-2026 academic calendar. I just wanted to mention that this calendar is, we're seeking board approval this evening. We do not yet have the inclusion of the early release dates for the 25-26 school year, but we are working to determine what those will be as we're looking at transportation planning and routing. So we'll seek approval on the calendar under consent, and then when we will bring that back when we have an update with the early release dates added.
Will this be shared with families prior to that point with a disclaimer on it, or?
Yes, we will put a note on the calendar that essentially makes mention of that. We'll publish it, we'll put it online, and then as soon as it's updated, we'll put the revised version online that includes the early release dates.
I also wanted to just clarify, this is the same calendar we did spend time talking about last month.
That is correct. It was brought for information last month after the calendar committee had developed it, and then any input or feedback that we got, we were able to work through that, and so there has been no changes from the version that was presented at the last board meeting.
Okay, if there's no more questions, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So move.
I'm second.
Mr. Sartorius?
Aye.
Mr. Blount?
Aye.
Mrs. Munson?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberg?
Aye.
Mrs. Conquest?
Aye, motion carries. With that, we'll move on to action items 4.01 E-rate projects 2025.
Okay, Mr. Souza, our Director of Technology, will come up to share some information with you regarding the E-rate projects that are being planned. Come on up, Mr. Souza.
Thank you for we're eligible for 50% reimbursement. And so we'll, basically how it works in a nutshell is we post different projects up on the federal job board. Various vendors submit their quotes or proposals. We did receive at least 3 different proposals for each job, and we have our recommendations going forward. Basically how it works is after the board meeting, if we get approval, then contact the vendors saying we're a go. And how reimbursement works is after the job is completed, Minooka will pay the entire invoice, then we submit all the paperwork to the federal government for then reimbursement down the road. So that's just kind of how the process works. So first up is Jones Elementary cabling. You may be asking yourself, I've heard Aaron talk about cabling projects for multiple years. You would be correct. This year we've focused on Jones Elementary. And we want to upgrade the cabling that powers essentially the wireless access points or the Wi-Fi grid for the building. And because 99% of all of our computer devices out there are wireless, whether it's laptop, iPad, or Chromebook, so it's a solid investment to make. We're hoping with the copper cabling that powers the access points, we should be good for 10 plus years. And the fiber optic cable that connects the downstairs to the upstairs network closet should put us in a good space for, honestly, 15 years or plus. The total bill is just under $28,000. I am hoping to get, or I feel we will be eligible for the full 50%. So just under $14,000 is what the quote true cost would be. But we plan on from a budgetary perspective of just 0% coming in. This project actually was budgeted for back in the current a while ago. So actually, we're going to try to pay it for this year's fiscal year money. So any questions about Jones Elementary cabling, and then we'll get to the next project. Okay, so, okay, I don't know if we're gonna take roll or not. Okay, sorry. Oops, there it goes. Okay, so firewall. This, again, with E-rate, we want to upgrade our existing firewalls, not only our 2 main ones that the internet comes in at the junior high and Minooka Elementary School, but then add in, less powerful but still robust firewalls at the other buildings. This would give us greater ability to handle all the traffic going in and out of the network and give us different locks and doors, if you will, even at the building level to then be able to segment traffic. And if there's an issue where we need to stop Walnut Trails from getting to Jones or something, we can do that. Right now, that's very difficult. We could just we'd have just unplug Walnut Trails entirely or something if something were to happen there to stop like a spread. So this would give us a lot of capability and that we haven't had before. And with the increase of everything being online, more and more traffic is going through the internet. So just a beefier boxes at the two main hubs makes a lot of sense. The cost here is just under $44,000. That does include all the hardware and then software support for 3 years. And there's a big ol' asterisk there on the 50%. That's because firewall E-rate reimbursement rules are very complex, where the box is eligible for 50%, but advanced threat protection is not. Or virus scanning is only 21% eligible, which is 10.5% for us. So I did my best to see, well, what is this true cost? And I'm estimating the roughly $44,000, we would save roughly $11,000 in reimbursement, or obtain $11,000 in reimbursement and pay the rest. This would be budgeted, though, for next year's fiscal year, as part of the plan. Both projects, especially on the cabling, we would go right after school lets out. We want to beat the custodial push to dump all the classrooms into the hallways, because pulling cables with 1,000 desks in the hallway is very difficult and challenging. So that one will be going right away as fast as we can. I've already kind of let the vendor know that's the plan, pending board approval. And firewall, though, that can be just any time over summer, quite honestly. Any questions, concerns about firewall project? All right.
Okay. Any questions or concerns on the E-rate projects for 2025? Okay, if not, I need a motion to approve the E-rate projects 2025 as presented.
So move.
I'll second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Sartorius?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Blount?
Aye.
Mrs. Munson?
Aye.
Mrs. Conquest?
Aye, motion carries. I assume the next one is you as well. So we will move on to 4.02, Minooka Elementary School Intercom Project 2025.
Okay, so in short, it was old 10 years ago, but we're ready to finally replace it. We've been looking at MES for quite a while on how the best way to do this. If we wanted to we looked at other potential solutions. If we wanted to go in a radical, brand new, almost very fancy system, and quite honestly, the cost then doubled and even possibly tripled. So we kind of scaled it back and okay, what do we need at an elementary building? We need reliable communication from the front office into the building, or to the whole, to the whole building and outdoors. And the classroom speakers, we've in-house replaced a couple of them over the past couple of years, and I believe they're 20 plus years old. Honestly, we're not entirely sure. But since we need to install a new call button so then if you're a teacher, you can press the button on the wall and calls the front office. That is not compatible with the classroom actual speaker. So I thought it'd be best, let's just do the whole thing, get this done. So it's one project and they just knock out the entire building instead of having people come back and forth 2 or 3 times. Beyond that, one of the things we're looking to do, modeling or at MES, and potentially this will model at other buildings if this is successful, is to add actual exterior speakers. Right now at a given building, there's only a couple exterior speakers for announcements, whether it's a lockdown thing or just, hey, everyone outside doing car rider, come on into the main office after car rider duty, we want to tell you something. We actually had an incident which kind of sparked this investigation at MES, where they wanted to have a bus evacuation drill time moved way earlier than what originally planned. So they made the announcement, but all the staff outside never heard anything. So then nobody was there for the bus, and it was like, the one kid bus evac drill. So they kind of shine the light on a problem that we have at MES and quite honestly at other locations. So what I have notated here is different areas of we want to add additional outdoor speakers for the car, the back end of the car ride line, the bus lane, and even the playground. Because if you're playing, you're in the back playground at MES and they made an announcement, especially with a lot of kids running around, you would likely not hear it. So we wanted to kind of make this one big all-encompassing project to kind of go after that. Here's a picture of a recently installed, this is the car rider line, one of them. It's not a huge speaker. These aren't rock concert speakers. We're not going to blast out neighbors or anything like that. But just to get communication out to the surrounding staff and our students, I think could be a big win, and potentially if it is, we would look at, going around as we look at other buildings to add in speaker coverage areas, if you will. The project is basically $51,000, and this was actually budgeted for this year as well. The problem is, I originally budgeted around $35,000 for it, but we kept discovering new problems, so obviously the bill kind of got larger, and when I was finally ready to bring you guys something, ITR, the vendor we're selecting, they were already booked winter break and spring break, so now it has to be a summer break because you can't just tear out all the speakers in the middle of the day for 3 days. So this will be a June project and hoping to actually pay with this year June money. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that, and with that, I'll take any of your questions.
Not a question. I just wanted to say the outdoor speakers, I hadn't fully considered what you just talked about, and that is absolutely amazing. I think that some things, as you just pointed out, are worth paying for. The amount of times our students are out of a building outside, I'm shocked that we don't have a better way to communicate with them, and I think that's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, we have had since that, so that one, that's the picture of the recently installed one. The old one was similar size, but it was just broken, we didn't know, and that's where it's like, whoa. So that one was broken, we replaced it, but if you go 80 feet that way, you can't hear it, so I think I have talked with our lead security officer and MES administration. They thought it was a good idea to start with them, and then we'll see how it goes and potentially take it to the other buildings.
And I just wanted to highlight, I know you noted it in here, but that it works with our current emergency notification system, and it has worked at the junior high well with that.
Yes, so we already have, the tech team already has experience tying this into the emergency notification with the lights and sirens and Crisis Go. So we're good on that, and actually from a raw programming perspective, it's like the sister version of the junior high intercom system that we have. So we shouldn't have any kind of technical issues programming it from just ring bells. Now again, at the elementary buildings, you only need, 5 or 6 bells honestly going. The junior high, you need 60, with all the passing periods and things. So, but we shouldn't we should be able to handle it in-house, essentially, from just a programming perspective, and just call out for mechanical or that kind of issues.
I just wanted to give you the credit. I believe the first sentence of your slide is, it was old in 2015, I believe. Thank you.
Yeah, they're, honestly, I hope over the next couple of years to then, MIS, intercom, we're at the capacity of what it can do, especially if they want to go after junior high music playing during passing period. That's something we can't do with our current system at MIS, but we can at the junior high. So I suspect over the next couple of years, we'll kind of maybe do one school a year, but start with MES.
Well, we sure appreciate how you make these things work in the meantime and bring us such a thorough report on what you're looking at. Do we have any other questions or concerns for Mr. Souza? If not, I need a motion to approve the Minooka Elementary School Intercom Project 2025 as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the Minooka Elementary School Intercom Project 2025 as presented.
I'll second.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. Shaneberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Munson,
Aye.
Mr. Blount,
Aye.
Mr. Sartorius,
Aye.
Mrs. Conquest.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will move on to 4.03, approval to rank the top 3 architect firms and begin contract negotiations.
Yes, over the past 2 months, we have been going through a process of releasing a request for qualifications for architectural services. We have requested statements of interest and qualifications from firms to provide comprehensive architectural services to assist the district in performing possible planning, remodeling, construction, life safety projects, and special projects. The attached RFQ was advertised in our local newspaper and posted on our district website. We are thrilled to report that we received 16 submittals from firms that met qualifications and were interested in working with Minooka CCSD 201. Administration reviewed the submissions, and 3 firms were invited to present to our search committee. All 3 firms presented their qualifications, work experience, and provided references. Administration, with the input and participation from Vice President Shaneberg, recommended the top 3 firms in this order. Number 1, Archon Associates, Inc. Number 2, DLA Architects. Number 3, Green Associates. We ask that the board approve our ranking of the top 3 architect firms and allow administration to begin contract negotiations in that order until a contract is agreed to with a successful firm.
Vice President Schoenberg, thank you for your time into this. I know it's taking time out of your day and additional time dedicated to the district, so greatly appreciate you stepping up to do that. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about this action item? You want to say something?
Yeah, no, I would say the firms as they're listed, I really was impressed, I would say, with all of the work that was done by Mrs. Robinson and everyone here, that it was really good to see firms that want to work with us and like where we're headed, and it was a good effort, and I'm really excited for the listing that we have to approve tonight.
Any other statements or questions? If not, I need a motion to approve a ranking of the top 3 architect firms and begin contract negotiations.
So moved.
I'll second.
I'll do a roll call, please.
Mr. Sartorius?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Blount?
Aye.
Mrs. Munson?
Aye.
Mrs. Conquest?
Aye, motion carries. With that, we will move on to discussion and information items. The first grade Chromebook discussion is the first one up.
All right. Mr. Souza will be coming back up, this time joined by Mrs. Botnick and Mrs. Bazan. I do want to recognize our teams, and often Erin is the face, but there's always a lot of support behind the scenes. And so we talk about the critical, necessary updates that we have to have for Wi-Fi and important things like firewalls and intercoms. And then we are also keeping on top of the instructional technology component. So I thank you all for your hard work on that, and take it away.
Again, thanks again for this. So tonight is more about the direction of where we want to go for first grade devices in particular. I've talked at length at other previous meetings about how, hey, it makes a lot of sense if we go, hey, you're a first grader, here's your Chromebook, you take this all the way to 5th grade. At 5th grade, here's your new Chromebook, you take that till you graduate. Makes a lot of sense from a distribution and purchasing perspective and strategy without seashell games and loaners and everything else that we're currently doing with the 2nd grade model. So with that being said, while that makes a lot of sense, it doesn't matter what makes sense from a Chromebook distribution perspective or a procurement perspective if it doesn't work in the classroom. So here to talk about how it works in the classroom is Mary Jo and Haley Bazan.
Thank you. So I'm the district technology coach, Haley Bazan.
I'm Mary Jo Botnick, first grade teacher over at Walnut Trails. Thank you for having us tonight.
So with introducing Chromebooks, we started with piloting 1 month at a time at different first grade classrooms. So we took all of the iPads, collected them, gave them touchscreen Chromebooks. We started in the media center, so the media teacher introduced the Chromebooks first. And when they introduced those Chromebooks, they didn't have touchscreens. So they taught them the keyboard, the trackpad, how to take care of the device. We then went into the classroom, distributed the touchscreen Chromebooks. I did a little lesson with Seesaw, made sure the students were comfortable with it, showed them the slight differences that were there. And then the classroom teacher had them for a month, did everything the same, just with a Chromebook instead of an iPad. So our first pilot was Mrs. LaFranco, and this was at Minooka Elementary School. When we went there, these are pictures. They were using the touch screen. So at the very beginning, that's all. They were just using the touch screen with it. As the month went on, they started using the keyboard also. A quote from Mrs. LaFranco was, "My students loved using the Chromebooks and started using the keyboard more than the touch screen, which was great to see for future computer work."
So my class got the touchscreen Chromebooks second. We piloted them from November to December. Mrs. Bazan came in. She rolled out the pilot for us. She taught us how to log into the Chromebooks. It was an absolutely seamless transition. Once they were able to log into the links page, it stayed on for the entire hour for our CST block, which means that the kids could move from one activity to the next without stopping, without having to ask questions, very independently. The student engagement was very high. Mrs. Bazan started with a Seesaw lesson. basic coding with my first graders. So not only were they able to manipulate the screen, but they were also able to do the skills utilizing the touchpad, the keyboard. They saw the Chromebooks as a tool. It's much like what they see their parents using at home, so being able to do their work with a keyboard, where a lot of times when we have the iPads out, they're seen more as toys. So the students also could use their keyboard to type right away with ease. We do have a standard for wit and wisdom in first grade being able to publish their work, and while they can do it on the keypad, it's much more user-friendly on the Chromebook, especially with them being able to utilize the keyboard. My class was also the only class in the district at first grade that used the touchscreen Chromebooks for map testing. And at first we were a little nervous, but Mrs. Bazan came in. She taught a lesson on how to use all of the map tools with the touchscreen Chromebooks. Again, the student engagement was very high. It was easy to have them pull their screen 45 and give me eyes, walk them through the tools, be able to open their screen back up and get right to work. The students actually performed much better with the Chromebooks. It really went in a positive direction. So overall, this is my map growth data. The first graph shows the students that met or exceeded their projected growth. It's not my achievement data, and while this is a small sample set, my class is 17 students, 94% of my class met or exceeded their growth in MAP while utilizing the touchscreen Chromebooks. Expected growth for my class was 169%. The district average in first grade was 98%. And then the median growth, so if you take a list of their report numbers and go right to the middle, mine was for reading 79, and the first grade at Walnut Trails overall was 71, and the district was 49%. So overall, they did very, very well utilizing the tools. Again, small sample, it's a class of 17, but they were able to use the keyboard, the touchpad, the touch screen, and just be able to manipulate the tools much easier. Same thing with math. My class overall met or exceeded their growth goals, 82% of the class. So compared,
Sorry.
That's okay. Compared to 76% at my first grade team at Walnut Trails and 58% for the district. So just much easier for them to use the things with having a keyboard available to them, having the keypad, and being able to manipulate things on the touch screen.
And then currently we have the Chromebook pilot at Aux Sable with Mrs. Stencil's class. We will be collecting those this week and then moving them over to Jones Elementary so that we can do a pilot at that school as well. By the end of the year, we would have piloted every single school, so there'll be one first grade teacher at every building that will really know the Chromebooks leading up to the following year. With these pictures, they are on some of their CST time. What was this one? I think IXL was one of them that she was on. Yes.
That they're using.
And the quote here was, "The Chromebooks offered everything and more than the iPads provided for student learning."
It's important to note that Mrs. Stenzel also isn't hugely comfortable with technology, and this was a seamless transition for her. They're very easy to use.
So we have a little plan with the Chromebooks. We plan on, if we go forward with getting Chromebooks, for fourth quarter, media teachers would start introducing Chromebooks to the kindergartners, so that this is starting the transition already, and then they will be introduced to the touchscreen Chromebooks when they get to first grade. And again, the media teacher will still be helping with it. I will be there helping. If teachers need one-to-one support, I can be in that classroom giving lessons also. We'll have training and videos, how-to docs for them if they need, like what they need, we will provide for them. But it is truly a seamless transition going from Chromebooks to iPads. In August, we'll be distributing the Chromebooks and then reviewing the tools right away, starting with the media teachers for the MAP tests, making sure that they're prepared for all of that, and then continued support. So we'll be collecting feedback, doing check-ins, and with the Chromebooks, there is so much more they can do than an iPad. So this opens up all the Google tools that they can start learning at first grade. Right now, our first graders, they start to get keyboarding skills through the media teacher, like fourth quarter, because we're transitioning them to go to second grade for a Chromebook. Now they'll be getting that at kindergarten and learning the typing skills in first grade. We sent out a parent survey after each pilot, and this is just two little statements that we had. One was, my child finds the touchscreen Chromebooks easy to use, and you can see that all parents either agreed or strongly agreed. And then the second one was, my child was able to access the appropriate applications to complete work at home, and all students were able to. One was with a little bit of assistance, which they're in first grade. Some of their comments: my child found the Chromebook easier to use and navigate than the iPad. It was a seamless transition. We love them and want them back right away. And then we have just a quick little 3-second video from some of our students in Mrs. Stenzel's class. We might need to play that one more time.
Yeah.
We do love the
We
Chromebooks.
love the Chromebooks.
Any questions for the team here?
That was great. There was one thing I hadn't thought about, the iPad being seen more as a toy than the laptop. That was a great point I had not thought of when you were presenting before this idea. Any questions for the team? Go for it.
I actually emailed Mr. Souza about this, about the night mode or a blue light filter. A couple years ago, this was brought to my attention by my ophthalmologist about our kids looking at devices while their eyes are developing, and how there's an increase in a need for glasses or other eye issues such as dry eye, whatnot. But that's not blinking because we're staring. But I did ask about, can we have the students shift the Chromebooks to night mode for safety, for a measure of safety, or put a blue light filter or something on the screens?
It is an option that you can turn on, and we could coach people on how to. I don't think we can force it on. I haven't looked to see if we can make that just everyone gets it that way. For those who don't know, it kind of washes out the blue, and the whites kind of turn almost a yellow tinge. It's good, especially for nighttime reading, of course. But yeah, there's other conversations we had. I don't know if I can force it, but we could coach and just lay that as an option.
Just let people know it's an option, because it's kind of, I've looked at so many different articles, and one will say it's not an issue. We have found that it's not an issue, and then others will say it is, and the American Academy of Ophthalmologists or whatever. So it's a concern.
I think that could be part of, especially on a parent communication side too, if they're going to use devices at home for any kind of extended time. In the class, we're not on the device for 3 hours or anything, any excessive time, but it is something we could definitely.
And when we do our lessons in media on screen time and all of the different things you do at home with them, they could show them that tool too.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, just to be transparent, the only real slightly negative thing we've heard is that the Chromebook does weigh more than the iPad. So if you're curious, 1.8 pounds for the iPad and 3.5 for the Chromebook. So just under a 2-pound weight increase. But we did hear parents say it is heavier for my small child. But otherwise, all the other comments have been really very positive, more than I anticipated.
I see that as a positive because they're working out now.
There you go. Yeah, PE department, get on notice.
So I wanted to mention, I know we've been talking about first grade Chromebooks for a while now, and I know we were talking about what the pilot might look like and how it would operate. This was a really good dynamic presentation. I feel like it touched on the testing, the in-class, the teacher perspective. I know along the way you said we'd have pilot and information, and you definitely came through. This is really solid information. My only question is, and it's a small one, does this plan include the teacher having their own Chromebook separate from their work computer, so in the classroom for the teacher, or is it in order?
Well, in the class, truthfully, we didn't currently the plan isn't to buy like a teacher Chromebook, but there is in most classrooms, we can put a spare Chromebook that we take from like a graduated 4th grade student. And we put them already as spares. Oh, you forgot the charge, or you can take the one off the shelf. So we could make amends, whatever, and increase maybe in 1st grade classes so they can become more used to it. You know,
Yeah, I was
that
just
would make
thinking
sense.
there's no substitute for the teacher being able to model exactly what's
Yeah.
going on. And currently they do have access to a tablet, I think, if the students have the tablet. So
Yes.
letting them have the device the student is using seems really important in the beginning, so there's no missed steps.
Yeah.
So when I was doing it with them, I had my teacher one and I was explaining it to them, and the media teachers do the same thing. The only real difference is we call it the colorful circle, the Google Chrome, is in the middle at the bottom of a Chromebook. That's like probably the only difference. And then everything else looks the same.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think
Oh.
what I'm getting at is the modeling of how to operate it, how to care for it, how to use it, so it becomes this same device the student's using is what the teacher is kind of, not all the time, obviously your work computer, but I don't know that it's not that big of a deal. I'm sure there's computers around, but
Yeah, we definitely, when the students leaving 4th grade this upcoming school year, whatever that number is, minus the 10 or 15% that are not, we can definitely get those distributed. So they can, the only thing, it wouldn't be the touch screen, but they can just model everything else, but that would be a free, easy win.
yeah, thank you. Again, I would watch this whole presentation over again.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you to Haley, Mary Jo, and everyone else who put together the time and the risk, especially with map testing. We wanted to make sure map testing would work, obviously, but, with evaluations and everything else, I mean, there's this, like a straight up inherent risk there, like, okay, you're ready to try a brand new technology for your kids on map testing. So Mary Jo stepped up to the plate. Obviously, my concern was just like, can they do it and do the scores not tank? Now, we actually have very positive news, but we're not guaranteeing 20% gains across the board, just to be transparent. But it was very enticing to see, like, yes, and Haley would walk in there and show everyone how to do everything. And I think the collaboration between the media teachers now prepping the work that the students are going to get, or prepping the devices ahead of time, speeds up the adoption time in the 1st grade classroom. And this really comes from a lot of planning with Haley leading the charge on that.
And I'm going to piggyback off on Aaron and tell you that Haley was really instrumental in being able to roll it out, but also Mrs. Mann, our tech teacher, she has done a phenomenal job of introducing it to the kiddos so that once they are in the classroom, they actually do know how to operate the Chromebooks. It took very minimal modeling, even on my part, to be able for them to utilize them. So it's been really well thought out on Aaron's part too, and Haley's.
So again, tonight is about the direction we want to go. In March, we'll bring the bill. But that's, any other questions or comments for any of us?
Just thank you for the time for the presentation, and also to our teachers that piloted it, and especially to you with the nap time. I'm sure that was a stressful few moments, so I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move on to 5.02, 2025-2026 staffing recommendations.
All right, Dr. Massey's going to come up and give us a breakdown, what has been a team effort in planning for next year from our building leaders and all of our district leaders together. So, Dr. Massey.
Yeah, I do not have little kids, saying cute things or walk-up music like Mr. Souza sometimes has, but this is important work, and we're happy to bring it to you this month. Last month, we alluded to the fact that we would be coming to you guys after having staffing meetings with our building principals and all the department chairs, and in fact, we did that. So the bulk of February has been spent talking to folks, Mrs. Robinson included, once we had an idea of the direction that we wanted to head, what some of the requests were. And our goal is always to make sure that we're bringing you a recommendation that reflects our strategic plan, but also sticks to that balanced budget. So that's what we're hoping to do with this, and we think things are in alignment so that we can say confidently that that's what we've done. With that said, I break these down based on our strategic plans, our goals. So the first strategic goal, demonstrating continuous improvement in student growth and achievement. What we're coming forward this evening is asking for 2 FTE of our MLL teachers. So those are our teachers that meet the needs of our students that have diverse language. And here's our vision. Our numbers are increasing, as you guys know. We had an influx of newcomers last year. And Mrs. Martinez has done a great job of tracking our progress with those kiddos and the implementation of some of the the curriculum that we use with them and supporting them to a level that they need. Sidebar, I had an opportunity at the beginning of the year. We raffled off prizes to some of our staff, and it was one of us district office folks would push into your classroom and teach your kids and give you a little bit of a breather. I had the opportunity to go into a classroom at the intermediate school and work with one of our newcomers, and I don't want to work at district office anymore. I want to work back in the, it made me want to go back in the classroom. This kid was amazing, but to see the attention to detail spent on one student, you know, he and I were reading together, and it was cool. It was refreshing. It was great. And then when I came back and had my conversation with Mrs. Martinez, I was like, heck yeah, we need to add some more people because these kiddos are showing phenomenal growth. Our teachers are doing a great job of doing small group work with them, but they certainly do need a little extra support. So that's what we're seeing across the district. My my opportunity to spend some time in that classroom just brought that even further to light for me. But what we're also doing is forward thinking. We are looking to add, we'll come to you guys again in a year or so, but the dual language kindergarten that I know Mrs. Martinez has presented on, Dr. Staub has spoken about as well. We're forward thinking about the addition of that programming into our district as well, and this will help to meet the needs of that staffing. We will specifically target in one of these FTE a candidate who has a skill set in that dual language kindergarten approach. And then that person will spend the year with us next year, learning our programming, helping us to grow that kindergarten dual language program. And we just feel like that, you know, sometimes, Mr. Chainberg, we talk about some of these candidates are unicorns. And how do you seek multiple unicorns in a year? So this is our way of you know, you eat an elephant one spoonful at a time, right? So we're taking one spoonful this year, and we're hoping to then approach it next year and find those unicorn candidates. So again, we're coming to you with 2. We're looking, one of them would be to assist with the current students that we have with the plan of them continuing that role. The other would be to assist with the current students we have with the eye on the dual language kindergarten program that we'll be working to develop in the following school year. Any questions about that one?
No, but I appreciate you answering the question before I asked it.
It's been a few years. Old dog, new tricks. The next ask is also coming on the heels of a conversation. I know Mr. Finkelstein has brought to you guys his scheduling challenge, and that was to go back to teaming, right? Because we know research shows teaming in middle schools, you know, you reach the students better, they feel more connected. We're seeing some of these SEL needs pop up, and you know, as Mr. Finkelstein presented a few months ago, we really feel like a return to the concept of teaming will allow us to focus on the students in a smaller sect and really meet their needs better academically, social, emotionally. To do that, he and his administrative team and building leadership really dove into what do we need to do to pull this off. And he said we need one more teacher. And the allocation of folks based on their certifications and licensures, he feels that he could best meet the needs of this teaming approach by adding one ELA teacher. Mrs. Kinder and I have talked about making sure that candidates that we are hiring moving forward, you know, we know that our increase, to refer back to our MLL population, is that's going up. So let's try to get candidates that have diverse backgrounds and licensures as well. So we're going to try to target an ELA candidate that maybe has some ML background or ESL licensure, so that we can make sure that, you know, we're hiring Swiss Army knives so that we can flex as our population of students continues to grow and flex within our district. So that's that one. Okay. Moving on to strategic plan goal 2, where we cultivate a safe, engaging, authentic learning environment that promotes student confidence and growth. We are looking to add one speech language pathologist This is certainly in Dr. Staub's wheelhouse, so she can spit numbers at you if you guys have specific questions. But our number of students enrollment certainly has become static overall, the district, and or dipped a little bit in the last couple of years. But the needs of those students have continued to change and evolve. And we're seeing this particularly in the speech language minutes that students need and the contact time that they need. And in diving into those numbers with Dr. Staub, with the current students that we have and the students that we plan to continue to have from the primary center up into the elementary schools, then we really felt like in order to best meet the needs of the students, we needed to add an additional set of hands to help meet the minutes that those students have within their IEPs. So that would take us, Dr. Staub, if I'm not mistaken, from 14 to 15 across the district, correct? Speech language paths.
Yes, that would be accurate. So we've increased by almost 100 students over the beginning of this year to where we're rolling into the beginning of next year. We'll be at least 100 students with increased speech needs. Yep. So that's the reason that we would need the additional speech language pathologist.
Is this one of the professions that we struggle to find people in?
Okay. Yes, so the earlier we're able to post this, the more likely we are to find a qualified candidate.
Great.
And you'll see I've listed those, that position and also the ML as district. We do that because we want to be responsive to where the need pops up, and then we allocate the staff accordingly. So that's why we're not designating that to a specific building per se. The next ask that is under Strategic Goal 2 is a student services coordinator at the intermediate school. Currently, we have one person that services both buildings, both the junior high and the intermediate school. You guys know those are our buildings of greatest population. We also have a great need of students there when it comes to IEPs and 504s. This position has been a heavy position, and what we are recognizing is that we feel like we can do best by the candidates that we have to fill those positions and the students and families that they service by making sure that we're not spreading that person too thin. So by increasing this by 1 FTE, we'll be able to allocate 1 per building. We're averaging about 1,000 kids in each of those buildings. I know not everybody in the building has an IEP or a 504, but there certainly are a lot of students in those buildings, and making sure that we're meeting their needs and honoring those IEP minutes and all the meetings that are entailed with a student that receives an IEP or a 504. We certainly feel like we could do right by everybody if we increase that FTE by 1 and allocate 1 per building. And then for Strategic Goal 5, ensuring community trust through effective and efficient operations and stewardship of facilities and financial resources, we are looking to add 1 custodian in the evening. We call that person a floater, and we just recently, last year if I'm not mistaken, added a daytime custodian floater. And Mr. Wysong has said that's been kind of a game changer during the day. So what that person does is if we have somebody who calls off, that's the first person that gets floated into the building where the call off was. This would allow us to have that same approach in the evening. Frankly, we have quite a few absences in our custodial staff, whether it's day or evening. So we're really hoping that this would help to meet the need of some of those absences that we have, where then we're either calling in a sub to come in, which is usually a high school kiddo, and they do wonderful and we love them, but it'd be nice to have somebody on staff that we know could automatically be a floater. And Mr. Wysong said when everybody is fully staffed, that person then would float to a building where we had an event coming up, or they were going to do a deep clean and wanted to do something, so they would be able to allocate that person accordingly based on the need. So when we add all that up, we sit down and we come up with this great plan, and then I sit down with Mary, and Mary and I figure out how much it costs, for a salary, for the benefits added, everything just kind of bundled into, and you'll see that we've got an approximate $367,735 impact based on the addition of these positions. Again, our goal is to bring you a balanced budget, and Mary presented, Mrs. Robinson, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, in her report to you guys this evening, there's some financial projections, and she's got that lovely chart with that trend line that we always want to see going up, and when we add in this $367,735, that trend line continues to go up. So that to me says good. When I talked to Mary, if it was going down, that would be a different story. But she's confident that we'll be able to absorb this into our budget and again, present a balanced budget to you guys, meeting the needs of our kids based on the population we have. So the breakdown I have there is everything I have just talked about, just in a bulleted form. But I would be happy to take any questions that you guys may have about the process or about the product that we present you this evening.
Questions or concerns? I mean, speaking for myself, none of these really come as a big surprise to me, especially that student services coordinator. I feel like at the campus, that's a big job for one person being back and forth in between. Questions or comments from any board members? Thank you so much.
I know you put a lot of time into this, and I just wanted to take the time to mention that I know it's for us and we're here having the conversation, but once these agendas go live and folks at home or employees of the district can look through here, and some of these have paragraphs written about the supportive rationale for why we're doing or why you're recommending, and I don't think we should gloss over that. It's not just that we or you think that or we think that. There's so much good information about what it is we're hoping to achieve out of it, and so we're having this conversation. But if anybody at home or in the community reads this, I think you did a really good job giving them the blueprint.
Appreciate that. So I'll tell you, we'll roll tomorrow then, if this is good. Our plan would be to post these positions so that we can get the process going and make sure that we're getting good quality candidates, which is why we, of course, like to bring this to you as soon in the year, as early in the year as we can, to make sure that we're getting some of those quality candidates. So.
Thank you, and thank you for the format with our strategic plan. I do appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Okay, on to board topics. Does anybody have a board topic for tonight? My only one is a reminder to our community that the consolidated election is coming up on April 1st. That will include school board members. So make sure you're paying attention to local news publications, social media, things like that, as we learn more about the candidates that are running. We have seven for our 4 open positions. So as information comes out, we'll do our best to share that with the community. Administrative reports got really quiet.
It did. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Massey, for your report on our staffing projections. And I did want to make mention that in our administrative reports, Mrs. Robinson has included early financial projections and will continue to do as she has typically done. But we're working very much in depth at projecting our best assumptions on the revenue side and on the expenditure side to make sure that we are being fiscally responsible with the resources that we have. So if you have any questions about that, please reach out at any time, but you're going to continue to see that many times in the next several months. I'll start here to my right to Dr. Stubb.
Okay. I do not have too much to discuss tonight, but just wanted to point out a few things from my report. Our health services coordinator, Amy Pelnarsh, is going to be leading hands-only CPR training for our 8th grade students starting next week, the month of March, which is really exciting, and it's a wonderful opportunity for our students. Our school nurses have partnered together to complete hands-only CPR for all staff, so all staff have completed that training over the last year, but then many of our staff have also completed full CPR training to receive their CPR cards, the diabetic care training, and then seizure care training to help support our students, no matter if that's students in their classroom or if they're students in after-school activities or sporting events. All of our coaches and all of our sponsors have completed that, so even if we have students that are on a bus traveling to an away game, meet, activity, then our staff are equipped to be able to respond to a student in crisis. So I think that's a wonderful initiative that Ms. Pelnarsh has partnered with our schools to be able to do, so I really want to highlight that. Yeah. And then I also wanted to point out, also within the multilingual programming, one of the biggest advantages that Ms. Martinez has brought to our district with her tenure has been increasing the training for multilingual working with multilingual students. So you'll see in her report, she has information about dual language training, working on co-teaching, and then that Literacy Squared project that she and one of our instructional coaches have been attending. Just some really great things happening there, which leads me to our professional development on March 7th, and that I might be stealing your thunder, I apologize, that Ms. McCarrow has partnered with the 2023 Teacher of the Year from Illinois, Brianna Morales, and she's going to be coming and speaking with our staff. So we are really excited about that, and board members, you guys are always welcome to come and participate in our professional development as well. And that's all that I have, unless there's any questions for me.
Thank you. Dr. Massey, do you have anything else for the board? All right. Mr. Souza, are you good? All right. Mrs. McCarrow, Chief Academic Officer.
Enough minutes, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Just a couple things I wanted to point out in my February board report. So in terms of strategic goals, 1, 2, and 3, professional learning, just a little bit of a coaching update. A lot of our coaches are working with the administrators of each building to do learning walks. Sometimes some of the best professional development and professional learning can happen within the own walls of our building. Our teachers are always doing great things. So they are helping lead the way with some learning walks in our building so we can kind of learn from each other. And then the organization of that with the administrators to get sub coverage and then additional time to talk and reflect on those learning walks has been amazing. So thank you to the coaches and the administrators for that. Additionally, the coaches are continuing to use really creative ways to engage our teachers in smaller bites of professional learning. So you'll see things like glow parties and share the love and coaches and cocoa and stuff like that, where it's just a fun way we're still talking about the meat and potatoes of student achievement and growth and learning environments and working environments. So we're talking about safe and civil schools and champs, how to incorporate small group instruction in the classrooms, and sometimes doing it in a little competitive nature with the staff too. So I just wanted to note a couple of those things. Additionally, with curriculum and instruction updates, I know several of the administrators were able to go walk, but our first graders in just about all the buildings, they either have or are about ready to have their little creature feature wax museums, or some of them actually created their own creature with specific features. It was really awesome to see. We had a lot of parent and student creativity in the costume creation there. Great masks and trunks and hats. I think I had a couple jellyfish that were just outstanding. But then also in the board report, you'll see the croco shark that was created by one of the students. So they took specific creature features and made their own animals in some of the buildings too. So just excited to see that. And then our professional learning communities are continuing to evolve and grow. Our administrators are doing a wonderful job of making sure that there's time for those PLCs, even though it is hard to schedule, with those early release days and the minutes for prep and plan, but they're doing an awesome job. And then they're also meeting monthly with our fine arts teams to start that PLC process too. Additionally, there'll be some curricular time scheduled for those fine arts departments too. Some of them have already started to meet in the next week or two, and then in April, we'll have art and PE meeting too. So, questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's the majority of highlights that we wanted to call out from the administrative reports. I did want to mention it's definitely February. It's very, very February. And in the world of education, that means everyone's exhausted, right? Adults, but I think our kids are too. We want sunshine. We need some fresh air. We've been cooped up. We're working hard. Our energy stores are draining. But we are powering through. And, there's a light at the end of kind of the view over here with spring break on the horizon in 4 weeks, but we are also in the throes of planning. So everything that you heard tonight, from staffing projections to transition meetings, school staff doing everything that they're doing presently, but also looking ahead to summer programming and to the new school year. So it is that time of year. After spring break rolls around, we will be talking registration and letting families know incoming kindergartners, transitioning as starting for MPC students who are moving on to kindergarten. So it is quite busy. You will also start to see notifications about our 5 Essentials survey that is coming open. We had a little snafu with the state releasing it, and we didn't have much notice. It kind of just dropped on us at the same day that the links went out to teachers. So we had to make sure everything was set, and we're going to go ahead with communication to get that input from our staff, students, as well as our families. So this is really an important measure, and the state does utilize this. It is publicly accessible, but it gives us an idea of how well organized we are for school improvement, for continuous improvement, that in these measures, if we are showing growth and improvement and we're hitting a certain threshold, that our schools are in the position to be able to make that translate to outcomes for our kids. So it's very important. We did talk about staffing tonight, and I wanted to make a note about enrollment. Our enrollment has, although it has decreased a little bit over the years, it has been relatively stable. So we're watching the cohort sizes, and we'll see what happens with our incoming kindergartners, and also doing some projections related to that. We've also been staying in touch with our villages and being in touch with residential development that is potentially on the horizon in Shorewood, Joliet, Shanahan, and in Minooka. And so we want to make sure that we are keeping our eyes on the short-term planning needs, but also looking further down the road. So we thank the board for your support and looking at an architect and allowing us to move forward in securing that so we can do a facilities assessment and we can have some conversations about longer-term planning with needs of our facilities, but also needs with enrollment and financial aspects. So it is a whole big picture that comes together. And then finally, I just wanted to make a comment that while we are busy bees here in the district, we know that there's a lot going on in the world around us at the local, state, and national level that either impacts or could potentially impact public education or us here in the district. So it is important in my role and in many of our district leaders that we are staying connected to that. There are hundreds of bills filed in the General Assembly that could potentially impact pre-K-8 education and us here in 201. So staying in touch with that is really critical and advocating. There's a big talk a lot about the streamlining unnecessary mandates or unfunded mandates and reducing those wherever possible, because the budget crunch and the budget talks are definitely wrought with kind of worry and consideration for how will schools be funded. Evidence-based funding looks to that it's going to be okay, but our mandated categoricals with things like transportation or special education transportation will probably be in a position to be prorated even more than they are now. So we are staying very much in tune with those larger conversations, and with all of that talk going on, we know there's a lot of noise. And so what I continually say to our team and continually say to our staff, let's focus on what we can control here in our district and what we have the control over, and how we adapt and work through change together and do what's right for our kids, and how we stay true to our values and our district values and do what's right for our children. So despite everything that's kind of changing and floating around in the world around us, this is the time where we look into our collective power to continue to do the best to serve our children, our families, and our staff. So there's a lot this time of year. It's definitely heavy, and we are moving quickly, but we are staying very united and connected and focused on our goal. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Kinder? Okay, we do not have a need for executive session tonight, correct?
Correct.
So with that, I need a motion to adjourn the Board of Education meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed nay. Motion carries.